Japan is home to some crazy perfectionists. Well, in a good way, of course. You know, some of the things I have seen here still shock me. I'll tell you now why Japan is considered the country of perfect things, but don't forget to like and subscribe. The Japanese believe that if everything around is perfect, then life will be in order. For example, in Japanese gardens, stones and trees are necessarily arranged with such precision that everything looks natural and beautiful, so that people were comfortable to be in every corner of the garden. The locals make the utmost effort to make other people feel comfortable. This is evident even in the little things, from the way they wrap gifts to the way they behave in public places. The Japanese also believe that there is no limit to perfection, and if you have already reached 100% in what you are doing, you should not stop going further to reach 200%, then 300%, and so on to infinity. So, friends, now the big revelation. You know, in Tokyo, I can eat spoiled food. And to be honest, I do it a lot. It doesn't mean that the stores here sell expired goods. Absolutely not. Everything here is the freshest. It's just that if you are a foreigner, a tourist who has come to Japan, you may wonder why such a short shelf life of products. Does food in Japan spoil faster than in other countries? No, absolutely not. Here the shelf life can be very short, and this is due to the special attitude of the Japanese to the safety and quality of food. That is, the Japanese are overinsured, they are afraid and want to avoid any risks associated with food poisoning. Therefore, the shelf life of food is often much shorter than in other countries. In all the stores on most products, you will be surprised at how quickly food spoils. But in fact, the food in Japan is of very high quality and usually lasts many times longer than what is stated on the package. Now let me explain what I meant by eating expired food. For example, if we take a regular standard pack of eggs, we can see that the expiration date is straightforwardly very short. It is manufacturers indicate such a shelf life when eggs can be consumed in raw form, that is, you can drink them. And then, supposedly the expiration date has already come, and you think that, probably, the eggs should be thrown away. But my friend told me that after the expiration date you can safely for 10 days, or even 2 weeks you can boil eggs, fry, add to various dishes and safely use them, although already on the package it is expired and it is impossible to eat it. The same situation applies to other products. You know, in our countries I see that there are still a few days left before the expiration date, but I open the product, smell it and realize that something is wrong with this product. But in Japan, it's the opposite. The expiration date has already passed, but you open it and it's just the freshest product. The shelf life is much shorter than the product can actually be stored and consumed. It was such a revelation for me. I hope it is for you too. Write in the comments what you think about it. I remembered one more moment where it is very revealing that the Japanese are very attentive to details. Remember the situation when you come to another country where everything is in a language you don't understand. You go to a restaurant, open the menu, and it often happens that you can't read anything. There are no pictures. So you start taking pictures, putting them into the translator, translating and trying to understand what you're going to have, and then they bring you a dish. You look at it and don't understand if it's what you ordered at all. And if there is a menu with pictures, then these pictures do not always correspond to what you will actually get, because everything is photographed as best as possible, and in reality everything is not so perfect. So, as for Japan, you know, it is a miracle when you come for the first time. You see that almost all restaurants and cafes have a showcase in front of the entrance to the establishment, where there are very detailed models of food, and the dishes that are brought out to you, they will be virtually identical to that mock-up. You don't have to feel awkward going into an establishment, asking for a menu, thinking about whether it's tasty, what they serve, whether you're going to eat it or not. Here you see right in front of the place that there will be such dishes. They look like this. You can see at once what the portion will be, what will be inside. This is the coolest solution, I think. And, by the way, if the food models in front of the establishment didn't surprise you much, then in addition to this I wanted to say that in Japan there is one very important strict rule. If the package shows a cookie of a certain size and shape, it must be exactly the same inside. The Japanese want customers to always get what they see in the picture. Locals know that if the candy is pictured the same on the package, that's exactly what it will be inside. In a way, it's an element of marketing. By making sure that the contents of the package match the image, you are more likely to buy that product again. Believe me, if you go to a Japanese supermarket for the first time, you won't know where to run to. Your eyes will just run wild. Everything is so interesting. You want to feel, touch, examine in detail, because everything is very different from what we have. All the pictures are very beautiful. The products are unusual. For example, all kinds of root vegetables. I would like to spend half a day in this supermarket. But you know, it is the fruit and vegetable department that surprises tourists the most. Japan grows the most expensive fruits in the world. For example, a premium variety of strawberries can cost $10 a piece. A Japanese yubari melon can cost $1,000. They are often given as a luxury gift. And ordinary grapes, even though they are the most delicious I've tasted, cost $40 for a small package. Friends, these grapes are unbelievably delicious. You know, this is the most delicious grape I've ever had in my life, honestly. It just melts in your mouth. It's so sweet and unusual. If you are in Japan, you should try it. You won't regret it. But we don't buy it that often. And by the way, I noticed that it is not available in all seasons. In August, fall and early winter, grapes are the most delicious. But in spring and summer, they are the most common. Also, every fruit has to be perfect. Each apple or strawberry must be perfectly shaped and the same size. If any fruit does not meet these high standards, it simply will not be allowed on the market. For the Japanese, it is important that everything looks beautiful and symmetrical. That is why you will not find ugly fruit on the shelves of stores. Japanese farmers pay great attention to the care of their orchards. Each melon can be wrapped with special nets so that it grows evenly and does not deform. Apples are sometimes even polished to make them shine like in the picture. The fruit looks like it was specially prepared for a photo shoot. Some are grown in very limited quantities, making them rare and expensive. Often each item is packaged separately or wrapped in paper to keep it fresh and not damaged during transportation. And you know, buying even an ordinary apple in such a package, it feels like you are buying something special. And of course, unfortunately, it cannot but affect the price. The price of fruit in Japan is just something cosmic, unreal. You know, I think someone calls Japanese people gourmets because they eat fruit piece by piece. I think that they are forced to become gourmets, because with such unbelievable prices it is simply impossible to buy fruit every day, and in large quantities, to enjoy this flavor. Of course, if you take one fruit, you stretch this pleasure very slowly. In our countries, when you buy fruit by the kilogram, you can eat a kilogram of grapes while watching something on your tablet or TV. Or the whole family split a watermelon and eat it. Here watermelons are also packed separately, cut in very small slices, and you appreciate each piece very much, because the price, of course, is unbelievable. Fruits and berries can be very expensive compared to other countries, even more expensive than meat. But of course, unless we are talking about meat like Wagyu or Kobe meat, it is one of the most famous and expensive beef in the world, and of course it is considered a real delicacy. Kobe meat is obtained from a special breed of cows called Wagyu. These cows have a unique genetics that allows them to accumulate fat not only on the surface, but also inside the muscles. This produces the very marble-like pattern that gives the meat its tenderness and special flavor. Wagyu cows live in comfortable conditions where they are carefully cared for. In some farms, they are even massaged to improve blood circulation and make the meat softer. All the little things are taken into account during rearing: climate, environment, temperature difference between day and night, cleanliness of water, feeding, and so on. Cows are raised for up to 3 years. It is important that during their life they are perfectly nourished and never sick. During these 3 years, the cow's diet changes to maintain the perfect texture of the meat. You know, there are rumors of even occasionally feeding cows beer. Allegedly, it helps reduce stress and helps improve appetite, and the cows will be more willing to eat. Honestly, I don't think this is true, or if there was even such a methodology, it's just long outdated. Not every Wagyu beef can be called Kobe. Each batch is simply scrutinized, and only the very best cuts are honored with this great name of Wagyu Kobe beef. Standards include evaluating marbling, color, texture, and fat content. If the meat doesn't meet at least one of these parameters, it won't be allowed on the market under the Kobe brand. If you want to try real Kobe meat, you should of course check the list of official distributors, because it's unfortunately very easy to fall for a fake these days. And you know, I ate this meat, it certainly just melts in your mouth, insanely delicious. Well, there's probably no tastier meat out there. The Japanese mop the floor with wet wipes and get rid of mold with a smoke bomb. Sounds weird, doesn't it? But then again, even that's thought out to the last detail. Let me tell you all about it. In Japan, they often avoid using water when cleaning so as not to damage furniture and surfaces. Moisture can affect wooden floors or other materials, so the mop that we normally use may not be used at all. You know, about this special mop, I lived in Japan for a while and I didn't know. The first year in Japan we lived in hotels. The whole year we were relocating because we couldn't rent our own place. And because we lived in a hotel, we had little interest at all in what Japanese people mop the floor with. And when we finally moved into an apartment and it became a question of cleaning the floor, I started looking for mops. And I'm used to finding some department where there will be a plastic mop. But how many stores I didn't go through, I couldn't find one at all. I thought, where do these Japanese people sell mops? I asked an acquaintance. She said that there is even a tiny package. Indeed, the packaging is tiny, meaning this mop is mega functional. It folds down to a tiny size, and they sell these wet wipes there too. It was such a shock to me too, to clean the floor with wet wipes. They also have such a nice fragrance, and after cleaning the floor, the apartment smells nice. Because of the high humidity in the country, mold often appears in the bathroom. But in order to prevent its appearance, smoke bomb is used. This is a remedy that neutralizes all spores, even in the most inaccessible places. But it is important to know that it prevents the spread of mold, but does not remove it. Pour water into the container along the indicated line and place the jar with the remedy there. After that, you need to leave the room, close the door, and after an hour and a half well ventilate. They also use different traps for mold, which can be conveniently hung anywhere in the room. The Japanese in general are geniuses of inventions, so in stores you will find such unique products in every department, whether it is cleaning, cooking, or something that you did not even realize existed. For example, the Japanese invented socks for chairs or suitcase wheels so that they don't make any unpleasant noises, and also so that they don't scratch the surface. At the beginning of living in Japan it was a little strange and fascinating to me, because you look at these socks and think, well, what for? But when I experienced it in practice and bought these socks for chairs, I honestly admit that I was delighted. At first I did it to make a video, but then I experienced what a thrill it is when me and the kids aren't moving heavy stuff. You're also not making extra noise for the neighbors. And you get so used to it that when you're traveling to another country and someone slides a chair in, you wonder why the sound. Just because you're used to the fact that wherever you move the chair, there's no sound. In Japanese drugstores, you'll find a variety of remedies for every part of the body. There are all sorts of soothing eye masks for tired legs, and there are even butt masks. You can even find them if you try. Also, here's a yogurt lid. It seems like an ordinary yogurt, and the question arises as to what its specialty is. But when you take that lid off, the yogurt doesn't stick to the lid, it's perfectly clean and you don't have to lick it. Or there's pudding, which you also turn over, put it on a plate, press the button and it comes right out. You don't have to scrape it, it's on the plate and perfectly shaped, for example in the form of a flower. Everything is so well thought out that you don't have to pick it up later. But you can serve this pudding beautifully, aesthetically, and get aesthetic pleasure from eating it. The Japanese take care of you even in the most intimate moments. In this country you will never worry about where to find a public restroom, and when you find one very easily, you will be amazed at how perfectly clean it is. You'll also be shocked at the number of buttons on the toilet. I often talk about Japanese toilets, I admire them. But, I was struck by the fact that 40 years ago in Japan, finding toilets was as much of a problem as it was in the rest of the world. And, people would go in there in case of emergency and run away because the restrooms were not as nice, as clean as they are now. Thank goodness the Japanese have solved that problem over time. And that's just a small part of the perfect things that are in Japan. You need to visit Tokyo at least once to see how the Japanese treat absolutely every little thing with awe. And this is one of the main reasons why the Japanese don't go on vacation abroad. The Japanese live in a peaceful environment where everyone is a little bit so relaxed. They are surrounded by a lot of perfect little things. But any trip abroad, it can be compared as a way out of the comfort zone. Everything abroad is not as sweet and peaceful as it is in Japan, and there are no such perfectly thought out little things, and that's why Japanese people feel a lot of stress when they leave Japan. So traveling abroad can bring a Japanese person a lot of stress, from finding a toilet that ends up being dirty and paid for, to having your wallet taken out of your bag in the middle of the day. People don't encounter this in Japan, so they are completely unaware of how to behave in such situations. By the standards of Europeans, the Japanese are considered too naive and gullible, although I don't think it's a disadvantage, it's just that we Europeans unfortunately have to deal with such unpleasant situations and deception much more often, and the Japanese very rarely or never encounter such things in their lives, and, of course, when they go abroad, they are shocked at how such things can be in society. But the fact that overseas Japanese become a convenient target for scammers is a fact. Write in the comments what surprised you the most, what you would like to have in your country, and what would not. I am very interested and important your every opinion. Write what you think, your reflections, I will definitely read them. Thank you all very much for watching and for spending this time with me. Subscribe to the channel, put a like and see you in the new videos. Bye!